This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to a special episode of Coffee with Kenobi. We are going to review the final 2 episodes in Season 2 of The Bad Batch. With me is my co-pilot through all these episodes of The Bad Batch, Mr. Mason Zehr. Mason, welcome back to the show.
Thank you again for the final time, question mark?
The question mark? Yes, well, that is it. There's a lot of finality to some of these two. Of course, we were talking about the episodes are The Summit and then Plan 99. We're going to talk about them individually, naturally, but we just usually do a word to describe these shows and just kind of give our overall thoughts. But my word for both The Summit and Plan 99 is very similar to your feelings. We talked before the show, a little pre-production, and decided that our words were the same for both episodes. So Mason, go ahead and share your words for both episodes and overall thoughts.
My word is dramatic because Tech dying, Saw Gerrera blowing up the base, whatever it is, so they can't go save Crosshair.
So what would you say overall how you felt about both episodes?
They were phenomenal.
How come?
It has so much to it. Let's get to it.
I love it. Very nice. Very well done. My word is intense. These episodes were very much the white knuckle situation where you're watching it's like when you're watching the Super Bowl and you want your team to score at the end. But in the Super Bowl, you're not worried about something bad happening. I mean, you are, but not like what happens in these 2 episodes. Because as I said often, what was great about Rebels and also about The Bad Batch is we don't know what is going to happen with these characters. We have no idea. So there's a lot of tension there because of the results of that. And I thought these were just tremendous examples of storytelling. This season has cemented it for me. I now feel like The Bad Batch is below Rebels, but in front of Clone Wars for the best Star Wars animated series of all time. That's how good The Bad Batch is, and that's how good Season 2 of The Bad Batch has been. What about you? Have you thought about that, where you would rank them?
Top 5.
Top 5 for sure. Is Rebels still your top?
I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that.
Yeah, and actually there's a few episodes of Clone Wars that we haven't watched together yet, but I'm sure that we will get to those. So let's get to The Summit. At the beginning of this, it's nighttime on Pabu, and the team has been looking over the data from the Imperials. They want to figure out what's going on because they want to try to find where Crosshair is. They want to rescue him. But he is so hidden and so well, all evidence of him seems to be completely gone from the system. But we do find out there is going to be a high-level Imperial summit at Tarkin's compound on Eriadu, which is Eriadu. Now, before this, on StarWars.com, we were looking, and I realized I know why that planet sounds so familiar. Mason, tell our Coffee with Kenobi listeners why Eriadu is familiar.
It is Tarkin's home planet.
That's right. In the book Tarkin by James Luceno is where they talked about Eriadu, and now this is the first time we actually get to see it live on screen or in animation, so that was pretty neat. As they are leaving, there is a great little time where you've got Fee, and she says goodbye to everyone. She has a nice she asks them where they're going. It's nighttime. Everyone seems very calm and happy. It's quite serene there. And then Fee and Tech have this wonderful little engagement where they talk with one another. Is there anything you want to say about that?
It's what's that guy's name from Mando?
Oh, the guy who was arrested, and then what is his name? He's played by Bill Burr, the comedian. It'll come to me, but while I'm thinking about that, go ahead.
He calls Mando Brown Eyes.
Yes, he calls Mando Brown Eyes, and then Fee's pet name for Tech is Brown Eyes. Now, the challenge here is that, as we know, Tech very much goes by logic. He's not soulless. He has a personality, but he's more driven by things that he can process with his brain as opposed to his heart. But it's clear there's a little bit of tension between the two. Do you think that Fee has a crush on Tech?
Yes.
How can you tell?
She says it basically every episode.
That is kind of true. My favorite part, though, is when she says, well, don't go run off with any pirates or smugglers while you're gone. And he looks at her and he says, I won't. But then as she walks away for the briefest second, he cracks a very, very small smile, which I thought was really fun. Mm-hmm. And would you expect much more emotion from Tech? I wouldn't.
No. I barely expected that.
Yeah, so even getting that I thought was nice. Then they end up going, then we get a cutscene to Dr. Hemlock arriving at Iriadu's base with the Bad Batch, sneaking along. This is what the Bad Batch does. They're able to sneak into planets, infiltrate other things. And we get a great little surprise where we see Tarkin having a bit of a meeting. So talk to us about that.
He was with Krennic and a bunch of other officers in Hemlock, and they were doing all of Hemlock's things. And then as soon as it was Krennic's turn, Tarkin said, okay, let's talk about Project Stardust.
Yeah, there's some great Easter eggs here, and it was Mayfeld. Miggs Mayfeld was the guy we were trying to think about before. Okay, so yeah, when they're sitting around there, this is Tarkin's top brass. We've got Hurst Romadi, who was seen in A New Hope. We've got Barton Coburn, who was seen in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And, of course, Orson Krennic, who is seen in Rogue One. And the actor who plays him, where'd it go? Oh, yeah. The actor who plays Krennic, Ben Mendelsohn, is going to be in, who's been in the Marvel Universe. He plays one of the head Skrulls. He actually voices Krennic in this episode, which I thought was a really nice touch. And when I listened to it, I did not recognize that. But basically, they're catching Tarkin up on all of their plans. We learned that Hemlock very much is like, this is my plan. We're going to take care of two birds with one stone. I need to find the female clone, and I need to be sure that I am able to get rid of the other clones too, because then Tarkin says, well, what about the clones? They're not going to agree to this. And do you remember what his opinion was of if the clones agreed or not?
He doesn't care, they're Empire property.
That's exactly right. You have a great memory. He says they're Imperial property. And so they just kind of go on with that. When the attack starts, when the Bad Batch infiltrates and things go awry with Omega, and there needs to be a distraction. So it's Wrecker, right, that helps with that? Or no, it's Hunter. Who was it? Or was it? I can't remember. Now we've only watched it once, and I think emotionally, I don't know how many times I could watch these episodes, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there's a distraction there that helps them out, so that they can try to perceive on this mission they want to plant a tracking device so they can follow Hemlock to where Crosshair is. But it's not going to work, because there is a surprise. There are a lot of surprises in these two episodes. This is one that was not one I was excited to see. Talk to us about the surprise.
Saw Gerrera.
What does he do?
Blows up the place that they could help to find Crosshair.
Yeah, he shows up in his animated persona, and he and Hunter have this great conversation. It's pretty quick, actually. But basically, Hunter is saying, we are trying to place this tracking device. We're trying to find our friends. You're going to have to stop this explosion. You're going to have to stop this little plan of yours. And it was cool how they kind of laid it out, seeing that, oh, wait, the communications is out in this area. Communications are out in this other area. It's because of Saw. Now, who did you think was going to be the other person infiltrating? I kind of thought it would be Ahsoka.
I had no clue.
Well, to be fair, I guess I should say I wanted it to be Ahsoka. Yeah. But I knew that she was not going to do it because she's hiding from the Empire because of everything that's happened with Order 66. So the debate they have back and forth is, you expect me to call this off to save a few prisoners? That's what Saw says. And Hunter, he says, we're trying to fight an empire. The debate, however, is really cut short because here come the security forces and the fighting ensues. Tarkin is not interested in letting his people leave. He shuts down like the shutters, for lack of a better word, over the windows. And while everything is shaking and exploding, they're just sitting there. And you can tell people are nervous. But Tarkin, why does Tarkin not want to evacuate? What is his deal?
Because he knows the Empire. Well, he thinks the Empire can win every battle.
That's right. And remember in Star Wars New Hope, he refuses to evacuate and the Emperor's moment of triumph. And then the Death Star gets blown up. So it's kind of a nice little harbinger to what that's going to be. So they have to reach the cable car. Saw hits that detonation, and here comes the Imperial facility. It's going to fall down, and then they cue this very, very intense thing where they have to get on the cable car. It's halting as it loses power, suspended over this massive opening. And the way that this is filmed is you've got all this smoke and clouds. It's not smoke, it's clouds, and you can't see the bottom. And then Tech says, this is going to be a problem.
Easily over 1,000 feet.
Oh my gosh, easily over 1,000 feet. So that first episode is pretty quick, but I feel like it packs a massive punch in a very, very small amount of time. And while we're watching this, I'm not trying to be funny or clever, but I truly had a bad feeling about it. Is there anything you want to say about this episode before we move on to Plan 99?
It was great. And it's also time to give our letter grade.
Oh, yeah. So what is your letter grade for the summit? And explain why.
A+. Because it's one of the best. Second best this season.
Oh, cool. I agree. I think this is, in a season full of highlights, this is like a 45 to 50 point game from Jordan. You always expect greatness from this season because they've done such an amazing job on the Bad Batch. And this one, the way it sets it up was just absolutely remarkable. I'm going to give this one an A+. You don't know what's going to happen, and I like that. I had no idea. My brain wasn't even, subconsciously speculating. I just felt like they were building to something very, very powerful, and it didn't seem like it was going to be easy. I mean, in this and in Rebels, whenever the teams that we're rooting for are in an Imperial compound or a ship or a base or whatever, I never really worry they're not going to get out. But in here, I just had a terrible feeling about it, and it's absolutely an A+. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, Mason and I will talk about the finale of Season 2, Plan 99. I'm Dan Zehr.
I'm Mason Zehr.
And this is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
We are back. It is time to talk about Plan 99, the last episode in Season 2 of The Bad Batch. We've already said our word because we just felt like both of these episodes encapsulated it perfectly. Let's just jump right in. When we last left them, there was blaster fire ringing out as all these stormtroopers are stranded. They see our crew of Clone Force 99 along the Raven's Peak rail line on Eriedu, of course, which is again the home of Grand Moff Tarkin, as Mason told us in the first part of this episode. Tech is on the terminal, is going to reboot the power. And while this was going on, what was going through your mind? What were you thinking as this was happening?
He's going to fall.
You did think that? Really?
Yes.
What gave you that sensation?
Him walking up on the railing, whatever it is, and it just gave me a bad feeling.
Yeah, and so you didn't think, they're going to get out of this one easily?
No.
I didn't either. And I think it's just, maybe if this was happening in the middle of the season, I probably wouldn't have thought about it very much. Is that?
Yeah.
So they're getting up there, and I'm just thinking, in my brain, I'm starting to think, very subtly, oh no, they've spent so much time getting us to care about Tech this season. I have another bad feeling about this. Tarkin is not messing around. He wants to order this full-scale strike to scramble a bunch of V-Wings and shoot down the Bad Batch's car. Now, other Imperials say, but our troopers are there too, and Tarkin doesn't care. He just says, blast them out of the sky or something like that. That's not verbatim, but no surprise that Tarkin is that kind of a guy. So just as his boots are hitting the first car with this great shot, the weight of it all causes the car to fall away from the track, and then Tech is hanging on by his rappelling cable, and I almost couldn't watch. Like, I started to look away, and I'll just tell you, I mean, we know what happens. Tech dies. Tech appears to die. And I know this is an animated thing. I know it's Star Wars. I know it's not real. But I was sad. Like, it stuck with me for several hours. I got really choked up. It definitely impacted me more than I ever would have expected. Tell me kind of your emotions.
It was sad. It definitely got to me a little. But he appears to die. And when they said, we only found these goggles, your friend.
You had said to me the whole time, you said, we don't know for sure they died, but they didn't find him. Mm-hmm. And I hope, bud, that you are right.
Maybe land like garbage or water.
Oh, maybe. So the ironic thing is when this was happening, I thought, oh, geez, Wrecker, how much does this got to be tested? There's no way he's scared of heights now, or he's got to be close to almost cured of it because he's had to face it so many crazy times. So he starts yelling at Wrecker as things are falling and stormtroopers are blasting him. He says, I'm climbing as fast as I can. And he's out of breath. And you just, again, rarely do we hear our heroes out of breath, unless it's someone like Indiana Jones. But you expect that because nothing ever goes easy for him. But for the Bad Batch, it always goes smooth.
Yes.
And then tell us about what happens between Wrecker and Tech at the very end.
Empire keeps shooting, and then both cars are ripped from the track. And then Tech says, you must sever the connection hinge. And, oh no, that was actually Wrecker.
Yeah.
And then Tech says, there's no time, Wrecker, plan 99. And
when he said plan 99, I just thought, oh no, he's going to let go. Mm-hmm. He's going to let go. You thought that too?
Yes.
And Tom and I haven't got a chance to talk about it very much, but Tom is a massive Tech fan. I know that Mr. Def Prawn is as well, Frank Mulder, and I know how much that affected you. I know how many of you are out here listening are huge Tech fans, and I've always liked Tech, but I grew to love him in this season, and it was tough. Wrecker keeps going, don't you do it, and then Tech sighs, pulls out his blaster, and he says, this beautiful last line, I have goosebumps. He says, when have we ever followed orders, he asks. And then he fires a shot, and then he drops in free fall. And, I mean, I just couldn't think of a more perfect line. Because he's the one who always goes by the book, and he's the one who's like, I'm learning from all of you. But it was it's like the most loving thing that Tech could say.
Yes, it was very powerful.
Oh, like I said, I haven't rewatched this one. I know you haven't either, because I didn't want to feel that way again. I'm sure I'll watch it again someday.
Yes, again someday.
Right. So then the car pops back on the track. Echo powers it up, and they race away. Kind of reminded me of The Empire Strikes Back to a degree, because as soon as Luke feels like he's going to fall, then they finally get the Falcon working. They race off into light speed, but it's not without great cost and tragedy. Hand. Yeah, Luke's hand. So Omega is unconscious, calling out for her lost brothers before she loses all consciousness. And then she wakes up, and she's in this comfy bed, and she's with Hunter, and she's with AZ. And then tell me about this scene and kind of what you were thinking and what happened.
I was thinking, on the tiny fall, not as much as Tech, but the fall that they had, she got knocked out, hurt her arm, that kind of stuff. So
she said she's so upset, and she says, why did Tech do that? Omega says, he didn't let us save him. And then Hunter says, he knew we were out of time. Tech put the squad ahead of himself. He made a sacrifice, Omega, and we're not going to waste it. I found this very inspiring, especially as a Catholic or as a Christian or just a fan of literature. We know that there's no greater love than to lay down your life for your friends, for your people. And that is what Tech did. A guy who's held his emotions so close to his heart, almost that you wondered if he had any, he shows the greatest love possible. Does this make you like Tech more, less, or the same?
More.
I agree. So Hunter and Wrecker, they're all back and thinking, I'm going to go retire on Pabu. They all make a plan to do it. And we realize the reason they're all comfy and cozy is there was Sid. And Wrecker and Sid are sitting at the bar, and Sid is comforting him. And I kept saying to myself, and I even said this out loud, well, what you can say what you said.
I didn't trust it. Neither did you.
I kept saying, why would they go back to Sid? Like, why not go back to Papu? Like, why in the world would they go to Sid? Now, she seemed to be kind and helping, but it just felt weird because she's never warm and fuzzy. She's never nice. She did say she was sorry about Goggles.
Because she just kept looking at him with sadness in her eyes because she knew something was going to happen.
Right, exactly. And then all of a sudden they realize that Sid has sold him out to the Empire, which not only is that horrible and a terrible decision, but does she honestly think the Empire is just going to take them and leave? The Empire is going to take over this planet. She set herself up for failure too. In her words, she says, I had to make the best of a bad situation. But yeah, I'm not so sure of that. So the Imperial Commandos burst in. Hunter and Omega run to the mining tunnels to try to escape, to go to the Marauder. AZ is with them. And Omega says, I've already lost Tech. I'm not going to lose them too. She doesn't want to lose her friends. But then we've got Hemlock. He shows up. He's got Wrecker surrounded by all these soldiers. They've got blasters aimed at him. His neck has obviously been broken or hurt. And it's just Hunter against all of them. And I've never been in a situation where I saw Wrecker and I thought, oh, he doesn't have the upper hand.
Mm-mm.
They set it up perfectly. Were your emotions just going crazy?
I was like, what's going to happen? I think this is going to happen. No, it's not. But no, I don't know.
So Hunter finally surrenders because otherwise Hemlock is very clear he's going to kill Wrecker. He says, you already lost one of your brothers. You're going to lose another one if you don't put down your weapon, which he does. And then when they get outside, Omega sends AZ to find Echo while she's going to fire at Hemlock and the troopers. And she says, if you come with me, well, no. Hemlock says, if you come with me, your friends will live, which of course she does. Then they sneak up on Omega and they stun her. And you just feel like, oh no. Then these AT-ATs shows up, or these scout troopers. But we looked up on StarWars.com and tell us what you learned about these new walkers.
They're like a kind of AT-AT AT-AT or ATST.
Yeah, it's like the ones after the ones in Rebels and before the ATSTs we see in Return of the Jedi and The Mandalorian. These are called AT-AC walkers. Wrecker and Hunter are able to free themselves. Hemlock gets Omega and races off, get on the shuttle, and they race away. And then you just think, is this really how it's going to happen? Is this really it? And they're concerned because there's no way to track Hemlock's ship. He could have taken Omega anywhere. And then Hunter says, and he's very determined, we're going to get her back. And we don't stop searching until we do. Now, here's the good thing about this. His special ability is that he's a tracker. Hunter is a hunter. So that gives you hope. But the fact that they're so well hidden, even from Tech and Echo's abilities, you just don't get a good feeling. Then we get a very long, extended finale. And tell us about it.
It is... So there's Nala say Hemlock wasn't lying that she's alive. And when she sees Omega, she has this disappointed kind of sorrow. But I'm surprised you're here. Look.
Yeah. Sorrow is right on. And then what's said is what the Emperor wants is impossible, she says to Hemlock, and he says, if you refuse or fail, Omega will suffer the consequences. So he is using their affection for one another to motivate her. And you can't help but think this is somehow attached to the rise of Skywalker and Palpatine eventually figuring out how to come back in a clone body.
Yes.
So it is cool that they are connecting it like that. She goes in a lab, and there's all these, it looks like clones in tubes. And she says, what have you done at Crosshair? He's laying there. And she demands to talk to Nala Se. But Dr. Emery is there. And she says, I don't know you. And they look at each other. But then the doctor looks at Omega and says what?
We're sisters, Omega.
So what do you think about that for a twist?
She's a clone.
Yes. And so I was surprised that there's another clone that's a female clone, because Omega was the only one, and she appears to be significantly older than Omega. We don't know her story. I thought it was the same actor that was voicing both of them. Like, I thought it was Michelle Ang voicing both of them, but no, Dr. Emery Carr is voiced by an actor named Keisha Castle Hughes. So she voices Dr. Emery Carr. So that was surprising. I think it was a great Cass who had said when he was on the show that he had a feeling that this was going to somehow be a relation, and he was right.
Yeah, I think it was him.
Yeah. I was a little, I thought of that right away, and I also thought, oh man, I don't know. The whole thing's a stunner, but this one again is an A+ for me because you can't ask for more emotional investment. This all works because of the great character stuff we've seen throughout the entire series, but also especially this season. We haven't seen Sid with the Bad Batch since Faster. And then she did promise that, basically going against her was not something that would happen lightly. And they were right. So if there is a positive to this, besides the great storytelling and getting to watch all these with you, it's that I feel like, oh, how could there not be a season 3 because of the intensity of what happened here?
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is...
So any last minute thoughts on either of these episodes, The Summit and Planet 99, or just Clone Force, The Bad Batch Season 2 overall?
It was a great season.
And your letter grade was also?
A+.
Okay. Well, hey, what have you learned about podcasting from now compared to when you first started this at the beginning of the season?
It's a long ride. It's worth it, though.
I love that. I can't tell you how much seeing you grow as a podcaster and someone who is good at analyzing stories, and as a young man, and of course as my son, I love you and I couldn't be more proud of you. It's been so great having the mic with you, pal. You are, of course, welcome on Coffee with Kenobi anytime. Thank you so much, and thank you to everybody who's been giving such kind words and feedback about our burgeoning little podcaster here, Mason Zehr.
Maybe I'll be on 4-Over sometime.
Maybe you will. Hey, thanks again.
Thank you.
So be sure to get your top 5 ready. We're going to combine The Summit and Plan 99 together into one top 5. And then, of course, we will talk about the brand new episode of The Mandalorian. Remember that the new CWK Live will be on a new time, or a new day. It's going to be next Monday, not next Tuesday, because I am getting ready to go to Celebration Europe, which I am very, very excited about. If you are going to be at Celebration Europe and you want to catch Coffee with Kenobi live, well, we are, when I say we, I mean me. I am going to be on the podcast stage. My guest is going to be Adam Christopher, New York Times bestselling author of Shadow of the Sith. We are going to be on the HoloNet News Stage, Room 14, on Friday, April 7th from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock p.m. That is Friday, April 7th from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock p.m. on the HoloNet News Stage, Room 14. And we're going to talk about our favorite memories and scenes from Return of the Jedi in honor of the 40th anniversary. So on behalf of myself and Mason Zehr, we will see you next time, everybody. Thank you so much. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.